The truth is, ignorance is no more an existing thing than its products, the world, soul, and God. Ignorance does not exist for the real self. It is a mere hypothesis, which is used as a means of conveying the teaching. We have seen that ignorance is no other than the ego, which has no existence at all. Hence ignorance, the origin of all creation, does not exist even now. The real self is the one without a second, all the time, even now. That is, God is worldless. Therefore, it is not open to us to entertain the belief that the reality suffered a real change, that it really became the three. If it could have suffered a change, it can never save us from the vicious circle of change, which we want to escape. Rightly was it said by Gautama Buddha that, if there be not an unchanging and unchangeable reality, there can be no deliverance for us from samsara, from relative existence or bondage. The Buddha declared that there is an unchanging and unchangeable reality, and that therefore we can obtain deliverance. If we admit that reality is changeless, we must also admit that it is not the cause, material or efficient, of the world, that its being undergoes no change of any sort. This is the truth of God. God, as conceived by the devotees, is only relatively real, as we shall see in the chapter on devotion. We have seen before that he that looks upon God as a person regards himself as a person. We have seen also that the personal God must have a form, gross or subtle, physical or mental. Personality means existence in one's own right, as a being separate from all other beings. The claim to such existence is based on the ego sense. The ego mind is aware of itself as conscious and intelligent. This ego consciousness is a kind of movement and not its own, but a minute fraction of the consciousness which is the self, just as the light of the image of the sun seen in a mirror is a minute fraction of the sun's own light. The notion that the mind or soul is a conscious entity is described in the sacred lore and by the sage as an act of theft. This theft has to be undone by surrendering to the reality, the mind with the ego reflected in it, by understanding that reality is the self. This is the meaning we are told to find in the last line of the Gita, which states, "Take refuge in me, surrendering all your dharmas." Here, dharma is to be taken in a wider sense than usual. It does not mean duties or conduct. It means status or attributes. The soul is a bundle of attributes. The first and the foremost of these is personality. This has to be surrendered, says the sage. The manner of this surrender is the quest of the self.